Hello, welcome everyone to the Notre Dame Mendoza Application Q&A webinar. We're going to let people sign on here slowly, but if you would like to type in the chat where you're coming from, where you're calling in from today, we always like to see how far reaching our webinars go. So feel free to type in the chat where you're calling in from, and we'll start in just about 15 or 20 seconds as we give everyone time to log on. All right, wonderful. Thank you all for typing in the chat where you're coming from. A couple of housekeeping notes here before we get started. So this application Q&A webinar, fairly straightforward. We always recommend if you have your application open alongside and kind of follow along as we go through section by section, it makes it a bit more tangible and a bit easier to relay what we are saying directly to your application. So if you want to take the time to go ahead and quickly log in to your application and pull it up, that would be great. If you haven't started an application yet, it's very easy. Just on our website, hit apply now, choose the MBA, and that's pretty much all you need to do to start. The second piece of housekeeping here. So if you do have questions, we will leave time at the end for any questions that you may have, but please use the Q&A function when you're asking questions. This helps our team monitor it a bit more closely on the back end. As people chat, it's easy to lose questions up in the chat and it's tough to scroll back. So please use the Q&A function. That helps us monitor the questions, but we'll go ahead and get started now. My name is Phil Drendel. I am this third picture here. I'm Associate Director of Admissions here at Notre Dame, working primarily with the MBA program. I'll let the rest of the team introduce themselves, starting with my partner in crime, Cassie Smith. Cassie.
Thank you, Phil. Thanks so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are calling in from. My name is Cassie Smith, also assist with MBA admissions. So excited to have all of you on the line today as we share more about how to make this place a reality for you. So excited to have you here. I will pass to Amy.
Thanks, Cassie. Welcome, everyone. I am the person behind the email. So if you've ever emailed the inbox, chances are you've spoken with me. So keep the emails coming. Annette?
I am Annette Tisfer, admissions outreach for the MBA program. So I am the first introduction to the program, the first ambassador that many of you will talk to as you're discerning programs. Thank you for coming today. We're so happy you're here.
And then I'm Rebecca Wood. I support this lovely team here for marketing, and we are excited to welcome all of you.
And we would be remiss if we didn't mention the Director of Graduate Recruiting and Admissions, Maria Stutzmani Marquez. She couldn't be here today. As you can imagine, this is a very busy time and she's a very busy person, but she of course welcomes you and is always thrilled to interact with all of our potential incoming students here at Notre Dame. So we'll go ahead and talk a bit about just what we'll cover today. So we'll go over curriculum a bit at the beginning and then really dive into the admissions process, talking about various application components, the admissions cycle, deadlines coming up, and then of course leave time at the for questions at the end of the webinar. So I'll pass it over to Cassie so she can talk a bit about our MBA curriculum.
Thank you so much, Phil. So before we dive into the application, we wanted to share just a bit about the different program offerings that we have for full-time MBA at Mendoza. And so as you can see on the screen, we offer both a 2-year full-time program as well as a 1-year accelerated MBA. So our 2-year full-time program is 2 years of courses. Between the 2 years of classes, you do a full-time internship in the summer. We also, like I said, have a 1-year accelerated MBA. I want to say a bit more about the 1 year. The 1 year is really designed for candidates who want to accelerate their career, who want to accelerate in a space that they're already working in. So maybe you are working as an analyst, but you want to move up and manage a team. maybe you're already in consulting, but you want to move up in that space. The 1 year is a great way to do that. You are able to, it's the same degree. The 1 year also, I will say, we do have a couple prerequisite courses for the 1 year. You would have had to, in order to apply to the program, you simply would have either needed to complete these courses, or you would have needed to start them by the point of submitting your application. So we ask that you have taken statistics as well as financial accounting. And so we're happy to counsel you on the back end. Do I have these courses? Do I not? We do allow candidates to take a few Coursera course options to check those boxes. So we're happy to counsel you on the back end if you feel like the 1 year is a great fit for you. So whether you pursue the 1 year program or the 2 year traditional program, we offer 5 different majors. So you can see those highlighted on the screen here, 3 of which are STEM designated. So the 3 at the top of the list, analytics, digital marketing, and finance, are all STEM designated, meaning those can be great options for international students to get that additional OPT time in the United States. What's great that, so with the majors, every student, you have to choose one major and only one major. So you can't major in 2 different things. However, we do offer 13 different minors as ways to support that primary major that you choose. So maybe you pursue finance, but you're really interested in social impact, for example. I feel like that's gaining so much momentum lately in the marketplace. And so that's a great way to really, I think, get what you want out of the degree by picking and choosing different options that are the best fit for you and your future goals. So you can have up to 3 minors while you're in the program. So that's important to note as well. One more thing I want to say about this is we often get the question, well, what if I major in X, but I end up not doing that or not wanting to do that from a career perspective? That's okay. Your major doesn't have to be what you decide to pursue from a career choice or a career pathway. We offer 4 distinct career pathways at Notre Dame. Those include consulting, finance, technology, and marketing. These are 4 areas. They're obviously broad, but 4 distinct areas that we have seen students find great success through going through our program and then also tracking where they land in the marketplace. Does that mean if you don't fit into one of those buckets, or your goal doesn't fit into one of those buckets, that Notre Dame is not a fit for you? No, that's not the case at all. We oftentimes have students who don't necessarily fit into a bucket, and that's okay. But wanted to just highlight those 4 areas that we do quite well in from a career perspective. Last but not least, we do offer a couple different dual degree options. We have a couple different programs with the law school. If that's of interest to you, we're happy to answer questions on the back end. We also offer a 3-year joint degree with the Masters of Global Affairs. So that's a 3-year degree. You can start MBA first and then apply to that. You can start MGA first and then apply to MBA, or vice versa. So happy to answer questions on the back end if you feel like one of those is a better fit for you. So I hope that helps. Feel free to type in questions that you might have related to majors or minors. Again, happy to answer those at any time throughout the webinar. So I will go to the next slide here. Pivoting to now the reason that we're here, our admissions process. So high level, this just gives you a quick overview about how our process works at Mendoza. So from the time of application submission, you submit your application on your end. Your file is then reviewed by a few different members of our team. So your file is read cover to cover by 2 different members of our broader admissions committee. Your file is then reviewed by our admissions committee, and certain candidates are selected or invited to interview. This is an important note. We often get the question like, I haven't got my invitation to interview yet, and I submitted a few weeks ago. That's okay. Know that an interview invitation can come at any time throughout the round. So that's important to note. I'll also say that it takes us time to read these. It takes us time to process on the back end, especially in larger rounds, which is where we're at right now, round 2 and round 3 coming up. And so I know it's hard to not get antsy, but know that we are working through your file. Know that it is been given due diligence by our admissions team, and know that it's important on our end. We want to get to know you through the process. So we take great care as we read applications. From there, after the interviews are complete, your file goes back to the admissions committee for a additional review. And then at that point, you will then receive a final decision. A final decision can be admit, it can be waitlist, or it can be deny. If you are selected to be on the waitlist, we will then review your application at the end of every consecutive round following that. So that's an important note just with how the waitlist works. So high level, this is our process. Again, I feel that we put such great time, effort, and care into making this work because you are important to us. Your application is important to us, and it's important to us that we spend enough time on each candidate. So I will now pass to Phil. He is going to high level go over all of the pieces of the app, and then we'll dive more into each of these in a couple slides.
Thanks, Cassie. And I've seen a couple questions come through already regarding recording the webinar, sharing slides. We will be recording the webinar and posting it to our webpage once it becomes available. All this information, a lot of this information is on our webpage already, especially curriculum focused and pathway focused information. So feel free to peruse the website there and check out our other recordings that are up on demand. But this is a quick high level look at the application, fairly straightforward. So an essay, statement of purpose, resume, PowerPoint presentation, 2 letters of recommendation, transcripts, test scores with test waiver, Kira, video assessment, optional essay, interview. We'll talk about all of those in depth coming up here. The only one I kind of wanted to touch base on is the one with the asterisk here, the TOEFL PTE IELTS score report. So for our international applicants, we do ask that you please submit a score in one of these 3 exams. This just kind of helps because we are a very community-focused discussion-based program. It helps with potential for discussion in the classroom, development in the classroom, out of the classroom, community engagement, all of that good stuff. We will waive the requirement if your instruction of your undergraduate degree was in English, or if you studied 6 consecutive semesters at an English-speaking institution or a US-based institution. If that is the case, typically on your transcript, it will say the instruction of this program was in English. As long as we have that, we can waive the TOEFL IELTS requirement there. We do not accept Duolingo. This is a great tool, but it does not supplant or replace the TOEFL or IELTS score requirement. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide, and I'll let Cassie start talking about essays.
Awesome. Sounds great, Phil. So one of the key pieces of the application is obviously the essay that we ask you to do. So we do give you 2 different prompts that you can choose from. If you open the application, as Phil suggested at the start of this, that's how you can see the actual prompts that we are asking for. And so we ask that you choose one of those, 500 words or less, size 12 font, double spaced. People often ask, oh, I went a little over. Is that okay? Yes, it's fine if you're a little over on word count or a little under. I would encourage you to, a couple tips I would say with the essay, make sure you're answering the question that you selected. Make sure you're actually answering the question we're asking as well. So that's important to know. And then I'll also say with the essay, another tip, be yourself. Don't try to be who you think we want you to be. Be yourself, answer the question honestly, and that's all you can do. So those are a couple tips with the essay. We also ask for a statement of purpose. This is an important part of the application, I would say. Not that everything's not important, but this is really about, it's 100 words or less. How does the Notre Dame MBA help you achieve your career goals? So why do you want this degree? So I highly encourage you to be specific. This is something that we really look intently on and at during admissions committee. What do you want to major in? Where do you see yourself post MBA? Now, sometimes we get the question, well, I don't know for sure. That's okay. you can be a bit general, but I think it's valuable to share right now in the moment. Why do you want this degree and where do you see yourself going? And then last but not least on the screen here, we also have a piece of the application called the supplemental essay. If that's of interest to you, this is really the section of the application where if you want to share something additional that you don't feel like you were able to share in another section, this is a great place to do that. I always say you don't have to write us a novel with this. A couple paragraphs is sufficient, but maybe there's just something additional that you feel like you want to explain that you weren't able to do in another section. So Phil, any tips for the, I guess, larger, broader essay section of the app?
Yeah, I think this relates to everything that we're going to talk about today, but especially in the essays, having extra set of eyes review your work and proofread your work is going to be important. It seems like second nature, like proofread your work. It's what we learn in elementary and middle school, but it does make a huge difference. When we're reading these essays, we're not only looking for your understanding of the prompt, ability to follow instructions, but we're also looking at grammatical writing. Use paragraphs, have an introduction, have a conclusion. We want to make sure that your abilities will be able to translate to success in an academic setting. So proofreading your work, making sure also, Cassie mentioned, be yourself, tell your story. If you want to write some hypothesis on what it means to grow the good in business, that's fine. That's your take on it. But we also like to hear personal examples from your own background.
For sure. Thank you so much, Phil. Okay, on to the next. Phil, PowerPoint.
PowerPoint slides. This is my favorite section of the application. A lot of our readers love the PowerPoint slides. This is an opportunity for you to talk a little bit about who you are, what you're interested in, your passions that we can't find on your resume or anywhere else in your application. We ask for 4 slides, no more than 4. So even if you think you're going above and beyond by having a 20-slide presentation, we please ask, just stick to the 4. That's absolutely fine, but we want to see who you are. Show your personality, your sense of humor. Creativity is definitely welcome. Pictures are great. We would probably say, don't just have slides with words. We read a lot of essays already. We don't need a PowerPoint essay in addition to the other essays we read. Also, you're going to be uploading this as a PDF, so no links or videos or transitions or animations, anything like that, just because we won't be able to see it on our end, and it would be a shame if you put a lot of work into it and we couldn't see the fruits of your labor. Note that with the PowerPoint slides, you are not actually presenting them. We are just viewing them. So don't worry about a presentation side of anything. Because of the large file size for these slides, it also takes some time for our system to recognize that they've been uploaded. So with all of the materials, especially as we get close to the deadline and we have a lot of users on our system, take a beat after you submit your materials, come back in half an hour and see that the system's recognized it then. It won't be an immediate thing. So don't worry if it doesn't show it's there immediately. For the resume, we ask for the most up-to-date resume that you have on file, and we ask that you keep it to 1 page. So for those with a little bit more of a robust work experience or work history, that may mean a little bit of selectivity for the most relevant positions that you've held, but we really want it to mirror the employment section. We get a lot of questions, why have an employment section and the resume? You already see what's there. A lot of it is for due diligence, but also the employment section gives you a bit more space to elaborate on your roles, your work history there. Cassie, anything that I missed with the slides of the resume?
No, I thought that was great. I would just also echo what Phil said about the resume. Try to keep it to 1 page. That helps us in a number of different ways on the back end, but that also starts to prepare you as you think about being in an MBA program, and that is how they will want your resume to be. So yeah, no other tips there. Next up, recommendations and transcripts. So within our application, we use the GMAT Common Letter of Recommendation. The way this works is essentially you put in the information of your recommender into the application. So name, title, email address. They are then auto sent the recommendation form from our system. They fill it out, and then that directly comes back to us. One thing that's great about the recommendations is don't stress if those are not in by the deadline. Those can come in up to 10 days post deadline. So there's a little bit of leeway there, which is really nice to give you some additional time. We know that that's not a piece that you can necessarily control. So it gives your recommenders a bit more time. 2 are required for the application. You can have up to 3 if that's of interest to you. I simply highly encourage you to choose people who know you well. We often get the question, is it better to have a Notre Dame alum? Is it better to have someone who's done an MBA? No, it's not. We simply want to hear from people who know you well, who can speak to your strengths, who have worked with you, who have served on boards with you or organizations with you. We want to hear from people who can speak to who you truly are. So that's what I would say about the recommendations. And then next up are transcripts. We need transcripts from any institution that you have received college credit from. I am going to turn it over to Amy for a second. Amy, if you want to share just maybe a bit from your end about transcripts on the back end.
Sure. For application review purposes, we do not need official transcripts, just a copy of them. Those aren't required unless offered admission. Please include such things as the degree received and the conferred date of your degree. Those are important aspects of the application for us to process. In addition, if you have any transfer credits, you took a summer course, we do need separate transcripts for those courses. Even though they may be on your degree transcript, we do need those in addition to them showing up on the degree granted transcript. Again, they don't need to be official, just copies at this time.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you. Okay, Phil, any other tips with recommendations?
Yeah, so I think we get a lot of questions about the timing of recommendations. So as Cassie mentioned, we can receive recommendations from your recommenders up to 10 days after the application deadline. You are not collecting them by the deadline. All we need from you is their name, position, and email address, and then we send them a separate form so you don't have to work on collecting everything. We do have capabilities of nudging them on the back end a little bit to encourage them to finish their recommendations a little bit sooner. But we would also say, make sure that you're in touch with your recommenders ahead of time. Give them a heads up. Hey, you're going to be getting a letter from Notre Dame. Sometimes, for whatever reason, whether it's company firewalls or country security or things like that, website addresses we are given don't necessarily work. If that is the case, please email us. Work with Amy on the back end to ensure that the letters of recommendation are getting to their proper places. We can start the evaluation process with just one of your letters of recommendation submitted to us. We cannot complete the process until we have at least 2. So even though you may go through the interview process and everything with just one letter of recommendation received, we can't get you a decision until we receive all of your materials, and that includes both letters of recommendation.
Awesome. Good deal. Okay, on to the next. Phil, official tests. I would say the most stressful area of the application, maybe.
Yes, the questions we get from everyone. So at Notre Dame Mendoza, we still do require a GRE or GMAT exam as part of the application. Just like the letters of recommendations and other materials, these unofficial test scores can come to us up to 10 days after the deadline. We do not need your official test scores by then. So typically you receive a test taker copy via email a couple of days after you take the exam. If you can forward that to us and make sure that it has your name, and if it shows that you're sending it to Mendoza, that's great. This is what we need to evaluate your application. For the GMAT, middle 80% range, you see the numbers here, 600 to 740. For the GRE, middle 80% range, 300 to 332. These are just general guidelines. We view each application holistically, and so the test is just one aspect of that overall holistic review that we do. We do offer test waivers for the GRE and the GMAT. If you would like to request a test waiver, it's just a question in the application. Would you like to be considered for a test waiver? If you select yes, there will be a small box that pops open for a short blurb about why you're asking for a recommendation or for a test waiver. I get the question, why not? Like, what should I do the test waiver? Why don't I do the test waiver? Why should I do the test waiver? We always say a test score is a great additional piece of information to review your overall application, especially if your GPA isn't quite what you would expect it to be, or maybe if you don't have much of a quantitative background. A test score can show you're academically ready for a top 25 MBA program like we have here at Notre Dame. That being said, we understand that everyone's situation is different. So this is why we do offer the waiver. We may ask, after going through the entire process and evaluating, you know what, maybe the quantitative work we're not too sure about, maybe in the applicant pool that we got all the applications in, you know, it's quite a rigorous application pool, quite a strong application pool. A test score could benefit you. We will then reach out afterwards and ask for a test score there. But I will say that we have students that are admitted to the program who have a test waiver. With our merit-based scholarships, a test score can also help show merit, but we also have students who receive merit-based scholarships without a test score as well. So ultimately, the decision is yours. Cassie, is there anything else that you would maybe coach or recommend when it comes to the tests or test waivers?
Yeah, one thing I just want to note about the waiver that I think is important for people to understand is that you do have to submit your full application for your waiver to, I guess, be reviewed. So sometimes people just upload a waiver and think that we're going to look at that. We are not until you submit your entire application. You will also not hear from us mid-round about the waiver. So let's say you apply March 14th, we may ask you to still take a test. You won't hear from us about that until the release date of April 22nd. There are times where we're able to get those out a bit early, but that's just important to note that we're not reviewing the waiver by itself. We are reviewing the waiver with the entirety of your whole application. Just to that holistic point that Phil made, we're looking at every piece of the puzzle as we're making the evaluation of the waiver. I will say also, if you do apply for a waiver, we are going to zero in on those quantitative courses that you took during undergrad. So if you did not take any quantitative courses, there's a good chance that we will most likely ask you to take a test, simply because we just need to, from our end, make sure you can quantitatively handle the rigor of the program. So I hope that helps. Phil and I are always happy to counsel you on the back end. That's our job. So happy to help in any way that we can.
And I know that it can be confusing. It's not like a cut and dry. If you have this GPA, you meet the requirement, here's the test. And we do that on purpose because we review each application holistically, because we know that you are more than a test score, you're more than a GPA, you're more than months of work experience. We really want to create a cohesive cohort. And so we don't have any just plain cut and dry, these are the waiver requirements, because everyone, again, has their own story to tell. So hope that.
Definitely. Okay, just a couple more slides, and I know I want to save time for questions for sure. So one thing that you may have seen when Phil was going through the application requirements is something called a Kira video assessment. Every applicant for the program has to complete one of these. So once you submit your application for the program, this will then fire to you usually 24 to 72 hours after you submit your application. So the Kira video assessment, essentially, we're asking you a few questions on screen. We ask you to record yourself answering those questions. This is also a great way for us to kind of put a face with the name during admissions committee. During the admissions interview, you are only able to meet 1 to 2 members of the admissions committee. So this is a great way for us to get to just to see a little bit of your personality. Don't stress about it. It's one piece of the puzzle. And so that is something that comes after you click that submit button. And then also admissions interview, like I said earlier, these are by request only. All of our interviews are done virtually. So they are every candidate has the same experience with the interview. So we don't do on-campus interviews anymore. And the interviews are typically around 35 to 45 minutes. And really the interview is just simply a time for us to get to know you better. It's very conversational. Why are you applying? Why do you want Notre Dame? Why do you want an MBA in general? It's not a scary time. It's really just a time for us to get to know you better. So I know things like that can cause stress and nerves, but know that we are here to simply just get to know you better. It's one of our favorite parts of the job as well. So Phil, tips for the interview piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, so you will receive your Kira video assessment link after you submit your application. It can take a few days. We have to manually make sure we have everything and send that out. So just hold tight. It's not going to come immediately after you submit. So just so you know, for the link for your admissions interview, if you are invited, you will get an email to set up a time and a date, and then we'll send the link about a day or two before your interview. So you won't receive your link immediately. There are some steps that you need to complete before you actually interview. You have to set up a profile. There's a confidentiality agreement that we ask you to sign and review and sign before your interview starts. You can't just log in at that time and do everything because it takes too long. So make sure that you read the instructions, prepare ahead of time. But as Cassie said, it's a very conversational interview. We just want to get to know you, who you are. I don't think Cassie and I are very scary people. We have great conversations with people and we really enjoy it. So hopefully you do too.
Awesome. Okay, so Phil, do you want to quickly cover fellowships and then maybe we'll try to move on to questions here quickly so we don't run out of time?
Yes, I'll go as quickly as possible. So in the MBA, we offer both merit-based and need-based scholarships. They're just questions in the application. Would you like to be considered for the merit-based scholarship? It's a simple yes or no. If you select yes, you'll get your award amount in your application letter. If you're admitted to the program, again, holistic review, all that good stuff. If you select need-based, yes, we then ask you to fill out the expected family contribution form from FAFSA. We do link it in the application. These merit-based and need-based opportunities are open for both domestic and international applicants. Everyone is open to these. For the 2-year program, the average range, I would say, for scholarships is between $10,000 and full tuition. For the 1-year MBA program, typically between $10,000 and $35,000. We do not offer full tuition scholarships for the 1-year MBA program, just something to keep in mind as you go through the process. But we will combine your merit-based and need-based into one award amount, and it's in your letter, so you have all the information needed if you are admitted to the program at that time. Cassie, did I miss anything before we go to questions?
I don't think so. I thought that was great. So just want to share our deadlines quickly, and then we begin to start. Feel free to start typing your questions into the Q&A. Our next deadline is coming up on March 14th. So just right around the corner, which is exciting. It's important to note by that deadline, we just need your pieces of the puzzle. That's essay, resume, basically PowerPoint, everything that you can control, that you can fill out. You do have until midnight on that date to submit. So that's exciting. You get a bit more time. A tip is we don't pull anything until 8 a.m. the following day. So you do actually have 8 additional hours there to submit your application. We will then conduct admissions interviews in late March and early April. So you can see those dates on the screen as well. And then if you apply in round 3, you will receive your admissions decision on April 28th. Are we ever early? Typically not. We're typically right on the day. I will say with 1-year applicants, that program does start, I think it's the very last day of May, or May 29th or May 30th this year. And so we will probably try to push 1-year decisions out a bit earlier for this final round. So this is the final round that you can apply for 1 year for, simply because the 1-year program does begin in late May, like I said, so it's important to note that. But want to open it up for Q&A, and then I will also For joining us today, we want to give you an application fee waiver code. That is Irish Web, all capital letters, one word. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. You can plug that into the second to last page of the app. All capital letters, one word, Irish Web. That will waive the fee. So thank you for joining us. Okay, questions. Bill, let's see.
Yeah.
I guess
I've seen a couple of questions come through about timing of when to submit your application. So we do have seats. We still have scholarship money and funding available for round 3. Obviously, the earlier that you can apply, the more guaranteed seats there are available and the more funding we have available to give you. However, we do reserve a little bit for that last round. For our international students that are applying, definitely applying earlier. That third round is going to be hugely helpful because depending where you are, sometimes the I-20, the visa process is still a bit delayed. We've seen it from COVID and it's gotten a lot better, but there still are some delays, especially as a lot of other people are trying to get student visas. So please submit your application by March 14th. And I saw a question just come through now about graduate assistantships. We don't offer traditional graduate assistantships at Notre Dame. We have research assistant and teaching assistant positions. Think of these like part-time jobs. Nothing that's going to break the bank necessarily, but definitely helps offset the cost of living. But more importantly, helps you build your network and apply what you learned in the classroom in kind of more hands-on way.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. Another question that's here. Someone's asking about signature experiences that are a part of the program. So I'm assuming that maybe this is kind of some of the, I guess, more experiential learning opportunities that we offer. So I will direct you to our website. We offer a number of different opportunities that you can kind of add on to your traditional MBA experience. So this includes something called Business on the Front Lines, which I don't know if someone wants to drop the link for Business on the Front Lines, more information in the chat. That would be awesome. We also have something that's called interterm during the program. So the way the classes work in the MBA at Notre Dame is each of your courses are typically 7 weeks long. So within a semester, you have 2 modules, are what we call them. Between those 2 modules is something that we call interterm. Interterm is a week-long period where you are able to pick and choose an experience that is of interest to you. And so if you're in the 2-year program, you have 4 interterms while you're in the program. So how can you maximize what you want to do through those 4 different opportunities? So these include mini consulting projects domestically, locally, internationally. These include larger Business on the Front Lines trips. These include Python and SQL courses on campus. So it's really about kind of what makes the most sense for you and what you see as a good fit. We also have a couple mod away options. We do a mod in Chile in the fall for 2nd-year students. We do a mod in Silicon Valley for those interested in the tech space. So I won't take all of our time right now because it would take a long time to talk about everything. But our website, I feel like, does a great job about kind of sharing more about each of those different types of experiences. So, okay, Phil, back to you.
Yes, I've seen a couple questions about student life and things of that nature. So, and cost of living and everything like that. So, South Bend, Indiana, where we're located, relatively affordable, I would say, especially compared to larger cities. I would say a lot of students are very pleased when they get here, and that it's actually a big draw. However, we are like 90 minutes away from Chicago, 2 hours away from Indianapolis, about 2.5 hours away from Detroit. So while South Bend itself isn't a giant metropolitan area, we're not so small, about 250,000 people in the area. We are very close and accessible to larger cities, if that's something that you're interested in. Most students will live off campus. There are a lot of apartments nearby Mendoza and the Stayer Center where the majority of your time will be academically on campus. Those have fully furnished rooms reserved for graduate students, a lot of those apartments, but there is on-campus student housing as well. As basically an apartment on campus reserved for graduate students. It's a little bit of a further walk, but a little bit more affordable. So some give and take when it comes there. We are actually having a program overview webinar at the end of March with a lot of these questions, but I highly encourage all of you to utilize the contact a student link on our webpage. And if someone maybe will be able to drop that in the chat, the students are the best resource for you when it comes to their experiences through the program, the job search, living, coursework, all of that stuff. They are experts. They are amazing resources, and definitely you can start building your Notre Dame connection with them as well.
I'll also add in the chat the cost of living chart that we now have on our tuition page.
Awesome.
So that can be a good resource for everyone to kind of get a comparable from other cities as well.
Love that. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, other questions. Someone asked about just timing of when the programs start. So like I said, with the 1 year, it starts, it depending on how it falls, it's usually the very last week of May, the first week of June. So I believe this year it's 2 days after Memorial Day. So it's that very last week of May. For the 2-year program, we start with orientation in early August, to give you perspective there. So those are the start dates for the program. Orientation is always required for all students. We also do an international student orientation that happens before regular orientation that is also required for all international students. A great way to really kind of start to just set yourself up for success as you dive into the program. Another question here asking about loan funding. Does the school underwrite loans? We do not. And so that is something. So basically, if you're admitted to the program and you applied for fellowship through us, like Phil said, you'll know the amount of the award at the time that you receive your admissions decision. From there, you can connect with Notre Dame Financial Aid to see if there are any options there. And then many students do fund their education through private loans. Many students choose to work part-time while they're in the program to help offset some of the expense. So unfortunately, an MBA is quite expensive, and but know that when you are, I think, pursuing something like this, you're simply investing in yourself. And I feel we always rank very highly from an ROI perspective. Students coming out of the program do quite well from a career salary and bonus perspective. So hopefully you can weigh all of those pieces of the puzzle as you think about a decision like this. So I think we got to all of the questions. Does Phil, anyone on the line see anything else that we need to answer?
There was a question about deposit fees and I-20s and the timing of all that. So you will receive your I-20 information after you confirm your seat in the program. In order to confirm your seat, there is a deposit fee that is $2,000. It's just a portion of your tuition paid early, but that really helps us not only with to confirm that you are indeed coming to the seat, but it also helps get ready all of the materials you need and everything like that for the start of the program. So for our international applicants that are anxious about getting your I-20s, and I totally understand, that is something that we can only generate after you are confirmed in the program, just for visa solidification and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. Oh, it looks like one other question maybe popped in. Just something about visa issues. Yeah, we're happy. Like Phil said, once you are admitted, we have a great international student office on our campus. We're happy to help through that process as best we can. At the end of the day, we can only move things so quickly, but we'll do what we can to help get you here if you are admitted to the program. So I think I will close us out right on time. I want to thank everyone for being here today. Oh, one more question. In-house transcript verification service. No, we are asking that you provide a WES transcript evaluation. Amy, do you want to share anything about the WES?
Yes, for application review purposes, we don't need a verification. If offered admission, we will need the service done, which is typically WES.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks so much, Amy. Okay, I'm going to close this out. Thank you for being here today. We so look forward to receiving your applications as we approach round 3. Thank you so much. And thank you to the broader team for being here, and go Irish. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.
See you later. Bye-bye.